Shalom. It's your brother Malcolm from the branch of GMS here in Chicago. Giving all praises, glory, and honor unto Yahweh Bashim Nahushai. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS, who are the true leaders of all Israel on earth today. And salutations to the Akim on the four corners of the earth that are doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so. In light of a couple different videos that has come out from different brothers responding to Vocab Malone and Apologia Ministries, which is, I believe, the head of that is Dr. James White, the Edomite. Between the two of them and other people like them, they have no answers. They ask questions and all the questions are answers, but they have no answers. So I'm wondering if they're going to be silent for another 8 months or so, because the brother street teacher, South Carolina, did a very thorough analysis of his page, and from the time frames where he first came against the Hebrew Israelites, which he still likes to throw out black Hebrew Israelites to throw that negative connotation, these guys got beaten down through the spirit before, and now he's opened his mouth again in anger and emotional, and with anger and emotion, and the same thing happened again. He got annihilated with the scriptures, man, and with the history. So, and in light of that, and I was watching another video about an Edomite who's going to the Apocrypha to prove its authenticity and how it was always around, and he was bringing out different precepts that are in the Apocrypha. So I'm going to touch on some of the precepts that he brought out that was in the Apocrypha that matches up with the New Testament, and proving that the Yahushua and the apostles, the disciples, were quoting things from, just like they were quoting and teaching the Old Testament. The Apocrypha is a part of the Old Testament. And you have to also come to the understanding that when you break down the word Apocrypha, which Apostle Elder Gabar has done many a time in the past, the word actually means to be sent away hidden. So that just goes to show you the power of Yahweh, man. Why Yahweh shy? That they'll take something this important and give it the actual, and then it be named the name that is given prior to what actually happened, because what did happen, it was sent away hidden. So without any further ado, I'm going to go into a book where the events that took place, this history, this is the book who is Esau Edom, okay, which this book retails for about almost $2,000 now. It's insane. Almost $2,000. When you go on Amazon and Google it, to get this book, it's going to cost you about $1,900. That's what I keep seeing. All right. I bought this book for about 20 bucks almost 10 years ago, man. And this truth is killing these Edomites, man. People like Dr. James White, the Edomite. But so I'm going to start at page 6 and 7. I'm going to read this part of 6, all of 7, and all of 8. And then I'm going to go into some scriptures, because the history that's in this book, the precepts are found and the accounts are found in the Apocrypha. Hence the reason why it was removed, because see, the Apocrypha is the history of the third kingdom, and the Apocrypha gives you the historical account when the Edomites took over the Greeks and started calling themselves Greeks. Hence the reason why people think that Europeans were white people. No, they weren't. Europeans were a brown flesh people. The real Greeks were removed out of the land and pushed into the islands and further out to sea. Okay? The real Greeks were what you refer to as Hawaiians, Samoans, the people in the Fiji Islands, the people in Australia. Those were the Minoans and the Greeks. And the relics, despite what you're going to say about what I'm saying, when you look at the ancient relics, which I have a couple books that have them, the people were dark, complected, melanated, Negroid type people. Not pale Caucasian type people. Those people came after the fact. Okay? So without any further ado, let me jump into this, because I gotta hurry up and get out of here. I got to go teach kickboxing. But this is page 6, okay? And it reads, after the conquest of Judah by the Babylonians, some of the Edomites who had mixed with Jews in their land resettled with them in Judea. 2 centuries later, all of Edom was driven out of Mount Seir, their original home. Mount Seir. See if I have it. And here it is. They refer to it as Petra today. For those of you who don't know, Petra is Mount Seir. And you can see through the spirit, they still build that way. The museums, the court buildings, you know, a lot of the gravestones in a lot of the big and major cities, like in New York, Chicago, Boston, you know, in San Francisco and other big cities around America, you'll find gravestones and brownstones that are still built that way, and especially museums. Even when you go down south to some of the plantations, they built those big columns, you know, for those on those plantations, you know, for the long front porches, and the big house often was built very similar to that. So through the spirit, Esau still builds that way. Okay. It says the Edomites were driven from Petra westward by the Nabians in 312 BC and before the middle of the 2nd century BC. They were occupying only southern Judah, but also Hebron and the country that is north as far as Beth-shar. The Nabians also occupied Mount Seir, and the Edomites were driven into old territory of Judah. The Maccabean family, a remnant of the true Judites, of the Israelites. So right here, this Charles Wiseman, this Jewish scholar, is letting you know that the Jewish people have never been a part of, they were Jewish. Exactly as their name. The suffix ish means to be like or pertaining to. Okay? It said, a remnant of the true Judites had ruled Judea from 166 to 37 BC, and under Judas Maccabee, 1 Maccabees 5 and 3, recaptured the city of Hebron from the Edomites in 164 BC. During the time, John Hyrcanus, 135 to 105, and nephew of Judas, the Judites were again faced with the hostility of the Idumeans. So Esau is called Idumea, and that can refer you right back to how the Lord said that he's going to come down upon all of Idumea, upon all the nations, and then he singled out Idumea. Why? Because Idumeans are the only race, according to the Zondervan's Dictionary Bible, that is going to get no mercy. Okay? Hyrcanus confronted the Edomites, causing a decisive change in the relations between the two factions. So basically, instead of slaying them, he had that Saul-like spirit on them, and he allowed them to live. But prophecy had to be fulfilled. You know, it wasn't time for us to rule yet. John Hyrcanus conquered the whole of Edom and undertook the forced conversion of his inhabitants to Judaism. This can be found in the Josephus, which I'm going to do a lesson reading the Josephus to bring this information out. All right. In Antiquity, the Antiquity of the Jews in chapter 13 and 9 and 1. Thenceforth, the Edomites became a section of the Jewish people. So, no, they became ruled over by the Jewish people. Ruled over by the Israelites, basically. Thus, at this juncture of time, the Edomites were then incorporated with the Jewish nation, and their country was called by the Greeks and Romans Idumea, but they were of the same lineage as the Romans and the Idumeans. So, when Dr. White and Vocab Malone said that the Edomites were done away in the Roman-Jewish wars, the Romans were the Edomites. They are the Edomites. Okay? And the Jewish of the family of Herod, well, they were Romans. Okay? Who converted to Judaism. Okay? And I'm about to read it. Mark 3:8 in Ptolemy Geography. Verse 16. So this is the book where that's coming from. But that's in many books, by the way. Even in this one that I'm holding right here. It shows you when the Ptolemies went in there and replaced the faces of the dark Negroid types that were in Africa. And to prove that, I'll just show you the back of the book. All right. If you take a good look at that, those were the original inhabitants of Egypt. The Negroid type Hamites, who are not the same as Israelites, but they're, even though they're compared to them in the Bible on a couple occasions. Okay? But to two different people, but both dark complected melanated people. All right? Back into this this book. It says, but the tide turned in the favor of the Edomite faction when Julius Caesar made Antipater an Edomite procurator of Judea in 47 BC. When Antipater was killed 4 years later, his son Herod gained power but was rejected by the Judites. They laughed at him because they knew he wasn't their people. You were Edomite, man. And some of the Edomites were dark complected, or they looked mixed or whatever, because they were marrying and having children with real Israelites. So all of them didn't look super pale. Some of them were, some of them weren't. All right. Herod surely gained the support of Rome. With the Roman army at his heels, he returned to Palestine. After 6 months siege, he captured Jerusalem and became the king of Judea. So you had Jewish fighting Judah to take it over. The Jewish, the people who wear those yarmulkes on their head, those little hats, which that's also talked about in the Apocrypha, about the new custom of wearing hats, because Israelite man wore their crown open. The size of your head is not your crown. Your crown is here. The crown of a king sits on the top of his head, not on the sides. Okay? And I'm going to actually put up to the camera, read them and put up to the camera the sources where some of this information came from. Number one was John D. Davis, A Dictionary of the Bible, 1934, page 332. I told you about those old books, especially things prior to 1940. All right. Encyclopedia Judaica, volume 6, 1971, page 378. The New Standard Jewish Encyclopedia, 1977, page 589, reiterates the same account. The Jewish Encyclopedia, volume 5, 1904, page 41. It also tells you that Idumea is Rome, that Basra, the Jewish, or Rome, were Romans. And I'm going to put that to the bottom so that you could pause the camera and get that information. Okay, because that's important. That the resources that it's coming from. So they can't say, these are resources that came from Edomite scholars. Okay? I'm going to read a little bit of page 8, and then I'm going to read some scriptures just to solidify everything I just read. All right? Oh, you know what? Let me go to the Apocrypha. Now that I finished that, the first page, that the Israelites were fighting the Idumeans, the fake Jews, and Ptolemy was actually a part of that. Okay? This is First Maccabees 5 and 65, and it reads, afterward went Judas forth with his brethren and fought against the children of Esau in the land toward the south, where he smote Hebron and the towns thereof, and pulled down the fortress of it, and burned the towers thereof round about it. So secular history is found in the Apocrypha, matching up for time frame, word for word. Yeah. All right. First Maccabees, the 6th chapter, verse 2. And there was in a very rich temple, wherein were coverings of gold, breastplates and shields, which Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian king, who reigned first among the Grecians, had left there. So he reigned, for he wasn't the Grecian. All right. They took over that land, the first over Greece, when you go back to the first chapter. All right. And the kings of that land and the brown skinned people of that land were conquered, mixed and mingled, or pushed out of their land. All right. That's how the so-called white man became European, because Europa was a dark skinned woman, not a pale flesh woman. Okay. So now that we got that, let me read page 8. This is a quick, precise military engagement in the scripture, man. All right, a strike, surgical strike. All right. Page 8. Herod was a shrewd, unscrupulous tyrant and was despised by the Judites because he was an Idumean and was not of their own stock. Just like Alexander was an Idumean, Edomite, not of the Grecian stock. But they started calling themselves by the Grecians, by the name of the Grecians, also found in the Jews in Antiquity by Flavius Josephus in the first chapter, chapter verses 5 and then somewhere around there between 5 and 7 in the first chapter. Okay. Herod hated the people of Judah, and one of his first acts was to execute 45 of the leaders and old aristocracy to eliminate any rivalry for leadership, and that was with John Hyrcanus, basically the grandson of Simon. Okay. And I'm going to read the account in the Apocrypha where that took place. All right. Having secured kingship, Herod next destroyed the priestly line of Hyrcanus, the last being Antigonus, who taunted Herod with his Idumean origin and asserted the kingdom should fall on one of the royal family, meaning someone of Judah. All right. Finally, he murdered Aristobulus, so they want to show you too that the Judites also had Greek-like names. They were Hellenized. Those are your Gentiles, as it speaks in the scriptures. Okay. The last of the Aaronitic high priests. So he was a Levite, but he had a Greek name. Those are your Gentiles that were being brought back into the fold, man. Herod then sought to affiliate himself with the high priest through marrying Miriam, the sister and daughter of the high priest. Okay. I'm going to read down here. We thus find in the years just before the time of Hamashiach, Judea was controlled by an Edomite faction who usurped the Judite name, land, and heritage. All right. Under Hyrcanus, the Edomites were forced to be a part of the Judean culture, but under Herod, the Herodian faction had control over Judean's culture and way of life. And there you go. And that's where you get your Jewish from. Okay. That's how that all came to be. Let me read the account in the Apocrypha to solidify that. So let's go to First Maccabees, 16th verse. First Maccabees 16. Okay, and it reads, I'm gonna start at verse 11. Moreover, in the plain of Jericho was Ptolemus, all right, the son of Abelus, made captain, and had an abundance of silver and gold. We just read about that guy. Okay, had the Levite with the Greek name. So once again, secular history is matching up with the Apocrypha. It's also found in the history books and in encyclopedias. You can't get around this, man. Okay. And he had an abundance of silver and gold, for he was the high priest's son-in-law. Wherever his heart being lifted up, he thought to get the country to himself, and thereupon consulted deceitfully against Simon. So Salakia, he wasn't a Levite. He married into them. All right. He was the one who married the daughter, and that's how he started calling himself Jewish, basically. Now Simon was visiting the cities wherein the country, but you know what? Never trust thy enemy, man. Simon was foolish, man. He didn't follow after the model that was left for him, like some other people that I could think of, by his elders, by his father and his big brother Judas, man, and by Mattathiah. All right, his father. Okay. Now Simon was visiting the cities where in the country and taking care of the good ordering of them, at which time he came down himself to Jericho with his sons, Mattathias and Judas. All right, Mattathias was named after his grandfather, right? And in the 117th year, in the 11th month called Sabbat, wherein the son of Abbas, receiving them deceitfully in a little hold called Dachus, which he had built, made them a great banquet. Howbeit he had hid men there. And that's Esau's MO, man, because Esau's a coward. Okay? So when Simon and his sons had drunk largely, so he fed them wine when he got them drunk, all right, and disarmed them. All right? Ptolemy and his men rose up and took their weapons and came upon Simon into the banquet place and slew him and his two sons, the certain servants, and which doing he committed a great treachery and recompensed evil for good. And that's what Esau does, man. You make deals. So all you sell out, you 501c3 charters, you know, people like Nate Satan trying to make videos to justify his wickedness. Okay. And then say in the name of Yahweh Shem Shah, Nate, you are a snake. And you deserve to be put to death just like Simon was. Making deals with Esau, man. You sitting at the banquet table with Esau. And people like you. All right. In which doing he committed a great treachery and recompensed evil for good. Then Ptolemy wrote these things and sent to the king that he should send him a host to aid him, that he would deliver him the countries and the cities. He sent others also to Gaza, all right, to Palestine, all right, to the land of Israel, to kill John, and unto the tribunes he sent letters to come unto him, that he might give them silver and gold and rewards. So he sent more men to go kill the other family member of the Levite priest, man. Okay, and in this book, this is that Egypt History of Treasures of Ancient Civilization by Giorgio Ferrero. I'm going to go to page 72 because, you know, everyone's seen this book. And, you know, and it shows you that the Egyptians and all the relics you dig up were melanated people, as I spoke. All right. But it's also going to show you when the Ptolemies came in. All right. And all of a sudden, the scale changed a little bit. All right. Here are Israelites in slavery building the pyramids. They're the designs for them right there. And there are the Israelites in slavery building the pyramids. Okay. You can clearly see that those are not white people. All right. You see the thick lips and noses on some of them if you look close enough. All right. And there are the pyramids at the bottom, the different designs that they built. Can't get around this stuff, man. Like I said, relics tell the truth. People will open their mouths to say foolish things. But the relics tell us truth in a story that these lying Edomite scholars like to avoid. All right. But I want to go to page 72. And there you are. And that's when the Egyptians, the Ptolemies went in, and all of a sudden, so-called white people were being called Egyptians. Okay. There it is. Hey, so with that, this was a surgical strike against those who come up against the gospel. All right. And I'm going to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Shem Shai, and Shalom to the elect.